The stars looked different from here. Captain John Miller stood on the bridge of the Defiant Asterisk, humanity's first deep space exploration vessel, and gazed at the unfamiliar constellations on the main view screen. The ship had traveled further than any human before, beyond the edge of the solar system into truly unknown territory. Captain, all systems are stable. The new engine is performing better than expected, said Engineer Paul Crawford from his station. Miller nodded. Good, keep an eye on those power readings. We're making history here, people. The crew of 25 had been carefully selected for this mission. The best and brightest Earth had to offer. They represented humanity's first real push into the stars, carrying with them the hopes and dreams of billions. Lieutenant Samantha Boyd looked up from the tactical console with concern in her eyes. Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures ahead. They're moving. Miller straightened his uniform. On screen, maximum magnification. The view screen shifted to show distant points of light, too organized to be stars. As the computer enhanced the image, the crew fell silent. There, against the backdrop of space, floated dozens of massive vessels, their hulls gleaming with an alien metallic sheen. Are those? Karen White, the diplomatic officer, couldn't finish her sentence. Spaceships, Miller confirmed, his voice steady despite the shock. Alien spaceships. Communications specialist Alan Russell worked frantically at his console. Captain, I'm broadcasting on all frequencies, standard first contact protocol. Universal mathematical sequences, basic language primers. The bridge crew waited, hearts pounding. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. We're receiving a response, Russell announced. I think it's a language. The computer is attempting to process it. Dr. Lisa Martinez had joined them on the bridge, her medical expertise momentarily forgotten in the excitement of first contact. This changes everything, she whispered. The alien vessels were moving now, arranging themselves in what appeared to be a formation. More ships appeared from behind a nearby moon until there were hundreds visible on the screen. That's a lot of welcoming committee, Security Chief Daniel Jones remarked, his hand instinctively moving toward the weapons controls. The computer chimed, partial translation achieved. It announced in its neutral voice. Let's hear it, Miller ordered. The speakers crackled with a harsh, clicking language, followed by the computer's translation. Unidentified vessel. You have entered Xeraxian territory. Identify immediately or be destroyed. Not exactly friendly, Boyd said. Miller nodded to Russell. Send them our identification and peaceful intentions. Make it clear we're explorers, not a threat. Minutes passed as they waited for a response. The alien ships continued to gather, their numbers now approaching 1,000. Captain, Russell said, his voice tight. They're responding. But I don't think they believe us. The translation played. Primitive vessel. Your species is unknown to the Galactic Concord. Scans indicate minimal technological advancement. You are deemed unworthy of contact. Your destruction will serve as a lesson to other emerging races. Prepare to be eliminated. Shields up, Miller ordered. Evasive maneuvers. The Defiant Asterisk lurched as Lieutenant Boyd activated the defensive systems. Captain, they're charging weapons. Energy readings are off the charts. Can we outrun them? Miller asked Crawford. The engineer shook his head. Not with conventional drives. We'd need to use the experimental FTL system, but it hasn't been fully tested yet. Miller's decision was immediate. Do it. Power everything we've got to shields and the FTL drive. The first alien blasts hit the Defiant's asterisk shields, causing the entire ship to shudder. Warning alarms blared across the bridge. Multiple impacts. Boyd reported. Shields at 60% and falling. There are too many of them. FTL drive spooling up, Crawford called out. 30 seconds to jump capability. Another hit rocked the ship. A console exploded in sparks, throwing a crew member to the floor. Dr. Martinez rushed to help. 15 seconds. Crawford shouted over the noise. Miller gripped his chair as the ship took more hits. Hold together, he murmured. Whether to his crew or his ship, he wasn't sure. FTL ready, Crawford announced. Jump. Now, Miller ordered. The stars on the view screen stretched into lines as the defiant asterisk, tore a hole in space-time itself. The bridge filled with a blinding light, and then darkness as the emergency systems kicked in. They had escaped, but to where, no one knew. Emergency lights cast a red glow across the bridge of the defiant asterisk. The smell of burned circuits filled the air. Captain Miller pulled himself up from the floor where the violent jump had thrown him. Status report, he called out, his voice steady despite the chaos. One by one, the crew responded. Engineer Crawford's voice came through the intercom, strained and urgent. FTL drive is fried, Captain. We made the jump, but the system wasn't ready for that kind of stress. Where are we? Miller asked, helping Lieutenant Boyd back to her station. Boyd studied her screens, wiping blood from a cut on her forehead. Unknown, sir. We're at least 50 light years from our previous position. No sign of the alien fleet. Miller nodded. They had escaped, but at what cost? Casualties, he asked, dreading the answer. Dr. Martinez's voice responded. 3 injured seriously, 12 with minor injuries. No fatalities, but Turner in engineering has severe burns. I need help getting him to medical. Jones, assist the doctor, Miller ordered. The security chief nodded and left the bridge. Russell worked frantically at the communications console, which sparked occasionally. Captain, I'm picking up transmissions. Lots of them. Different from the hostiles we encountered. Can you translate any of it? Miller asked, moving to look over Russell's shoulder. The computer is working on it. There seem to be multiple languages, but they share some common elements with what we heard before. Crawford returned to the bridge, his uniform stained with coolant fluid. Captain, we have major problems. The main power grid is damaged. Life support is stable for now, but we've lost weapons, long-range sensors, and our drive is beyond repair with the tools we have. Miller's face remained calm, though the news hit him like a physical blow. Options. We can reroute power to get basic systems online. Shields at minimum capacity. Short-range sensors, maybe limited propulsion, Crawford explained. But we're not going anywhere fast, and we're certainly not getting home. The reality of their situation settled over the bridge crew. They were stranded in unknown space, surrounded by alien civilizations, at least one of which wanted them dead. Sir, Russell said suddenly, I think I've got something. These transmissions, they're talking about the Zeraxians. The ones who attacked us? Miller asked. Russell nodded. Yes, and from what I can tell, they're not popular. I'm picking up what seems to be resistance communications, battle plans, distress calls. Boyd looked up from her console. Captain, I think we jumped right into the middle of a war zone. The ship groaned as Crawford's repair teams worked to stabilize the damaged systems. Emergency patches covered ruptured conduits, and the lights flickered as power was rerouted. Get me anything you can on these Zeraxians, and whoever they're fighting, Miller ordered. If we're stuck here, we need to know the players. Karen White, the diplomatic officer, spoke up. Captain, if these transmissions are from groups resisting the Zeraxians, they might help us. We could offer them something in exchange for repairs. What could we possibly offer? Jones asked as he returned to the bridge. Miller considered this. Our technology may be different from theirs. Sometimes a fresh perspective is valuable. Sir, Boyd interrupted, I'm detecting a ship approaching. Much smaller than the Zeraxian vessels, but definitely headed our way. Shields? Miller asked. Crawford shook his head. Minimal at best. They won't withstand another attack. Weapons? Miller continued. Offline, Boyd confirmed. Miller straightened his shoulders. Then we'll have to rely on diplomacy. White, Prepare for possible contact. Russell, keep working on those translations. Everyone else, make this ship look as functional as possible." The bridge crew moved with purpose despite their exhaustion. The approaching vessel grew larger on their view screen. "They're hailing us," Russell announced. "Different signal pattern from the Ziraxians." Miller took a deep breath. This could be their salvation or their doom. "Open a channel." The view screen flickered to life, revealing a face that was undeniably alien. Delicate features, large eyes, skin with a faint blue tint. The alien spoke, and moments later the computer provided a rough translation. "Damaged vessel, we offer assistance. The Ziraxian hunters will return. You survived them once. How is this possible?" Miller looked at his battered but determined crew, then back at the alien face. "We're full of surprises," he said, "and we could use some friends right now." The alien's expression changed in a way Miller couldn't interpret. Perhaps the translation came. "We have much to discuss." The alien ship docked with the Defiant through an airlock system that seemed strangely compatible with human technology. Captain Miller stood with Karen White, Security Chief Jones, and Dr. Martinez as they prepared to meet their potential rescuers. "Remember," Miller told his team, "we know nothing about them except they don't like the Ziraxians. Stay alert." The airlock cycled open to reveal 3 aliens with slender blue-tinted bodies and large, expressive eyes. They wore simple garments with insignia that might indicate rank or profession. The lead alien stepped forward. It wore a small device on its chest that glowed when it spoke. "We are Velderans. I am Commander Zethy. You are the first humans we have encountered." Miller was surprised by the near-perfect translation. "I'm Captain John Miller of the Earth, Ship Defiant *. How does your translator work so well with our language?" Zethy's eyes widened slightly. "We monitored your transmissions to the Ziraxians. Our technology adapts quickly to new communication patterns." "Impressive," White commented. Zethy gestured to the damaged corridor. "Your ship survived Ziraxian weapons. This is unexpected. Most new species vessels are destroyed in seconds." Jones kept one hand near his sidearm. "We're tougher than we look." "So we observe," Zethy replied. "Why have humans entered this region of space? Are you allied with the Resistance?" Miller exchanged glances with his officers. "We're explorers. We didn't know about any Resistance or Ziraxians until they attacked us without provocation. Our jump here was an accident. Our drive was experimental." The aliens conferred among themselves in hushed tones before Zethy spoke again. "You must come to our ship. It is not safe here. The Ziraxians will track your energy signature." "Some of my crew are injured," Miller said, "and I won't abandon the Defiant *. We can tow your vessel to our hidden base," Zethy offered. "Your injured will receive care, but we must leave quickly." Miller considered their limited options. "Very well, but my crew stays on the Defiant * during transit." Back on the bridge, the Velderan ship extended energy fields around the Defiant * and began moving both vessels through space. Boyd monitored their course from her tactical station. "They're taking us into an asteroid field," she reported, "dense enough to hide from sensors." Russell worked with the Velderan communications officer to improve their translation systems. "Captain," he called out, "I'm learning more about the situation here. The Velderans are part of something called the Galactic Concord, dozens of species that shared peaceful relations until the Ziraxians took control." "How did one species dominate so many others?" Miller asked. "Superior military technology and a unified command structure," Russell explained. "Most Concord species evolved without our history of conflict. They weren't prepared for aggressive expansion. Hours later, the ships arrived at a massive asteroid that had been hollowed out to create a hidden base. Inside the cavernous space, dozens of alien vessels of various designs were docked. The Defiant * was guided to a repair bay, where Velderan engineers examined it with obvious curiosity. In a meeting chamber carved from the asteroid itself, Miller and his senior officers met with the Resistance leadership, representatives from 6 different species, with Zethi speaking for the Veldorans. "Your survival is remarkable," said a reptilian alien introduced as General Kraz of the Norbians. "No single ship has ever engaged the Ziraxians and escaped." "We got lucky," Miller said modestly. "Luck is not a factor in space combat," Kraz insisted. "Your shields absorbed energy levels that would destroy our vessels instantly. Your propulsion system, though damaged, uses principles our scientists find fascinating." Engineer Crawford, who had joined the meeting, explained, "Our technology developed along different paths than yours. We don't have your advanced translation systems or medical techniques, but we focused heavily on defensive systems and weapons." A silence fell over the alien delegation. Finally, Zethi spoke. "Humans developed as warriors." Miller shook his head. "Not exactly. We had our conflicts, yes, but we're explorers, scientists, diplomats too." "Yet you built a ship that survived the Ziraxians," Kraz observed. Perhaps what this resistance needs is a different perspective." Zethi turned to Miller. "We offer you repairs and supplies in exchange for your tactical knowledge. Help us fight the Ziraxians, and we will help you return home." Miller looked at his officers, seeing determination in their faces. Earth was too far to reach with their damaged ship, and they now faced a threat that could eventually reach their homeworld anyway. "We're listening," Miller said. "What exactly did you have in mind?" Over the next few days, the Defiance crew worked alongside the aliens to repair their ship. Engineer Crawford spent hours with the Veldoran technicians, explaining human engineering principles while learning about alien technology. In a large workshop area, weapons specialist Greg Patterson demonstrated human combat tactics to a group of resistance fighters. He had set up targets and was showing them how to take cover and fire from protected positions. "You fight as individuals," observed Kraz, watching from the sidelines. Patterson nodded. "Each soldier makes decisions based on the situation. We call it tactical flexibility." "Fascinating," Kraz said. "Ziraxians fight as a collective, sharing thoughts through their telepathic abilities. They never expect independent action." In another section of the base, Lieutenant Boyd worked with Veldoran scientists to analyze the Defiance shield systems. "Your modulation frequencies," one scientist named Helm said, "they constantly change during combat. We've never seen this approach." Boyd smiled. "It prevents enemies from tuning their weapons to match our shield frequency. Standard practice for us." Captain Miller met with the resistance leaders in their command center. Star maps and tactical displays filled holographic screens around them. "The situation is worse than we thought," Zethi explained. "The Ziraxians control most major trade routes and have blockaded resistance worlds." "How many ships do they have?" Miller asked. "Over 3,000 across the sector," replied a small, furry alien named Dorn. "We have barely 200, mostly small vessels." Miller studied the maps carefully. "What about this region here?" He pointed to a cloudy area of space. "The Cerulean Nebula," Zethi said. "Dense gas and radiation interfere with most sensors. We avoid it." Miller exchanged glances with First Officer Nancy Rogers. "On Earth, we have a concept called asymmetric warfare. When facing a stronger enemy, you don't fight on their terms." "Explain," Kraz demanded. Rogers stepped forward. "You can't match their fleet, so don't try. Instead, use your smaller numbers and knowledge of the territory to strike where they don't expect, then disappear before they can respond." Later, back on the Defiant Miller gathered his senior officers. The ship was starting to look functional again, with lights restored and systems coming back online. "What do you think?" he asked his team. "Can we really help these people?" Dr. Martinez spoke first. "Their medical technology is amazing. They've healed injuries that would take weeks on Earth. They're peaceful people not suited for war. They need our help," Boyd added. "And if the Ziraxians ever found Earth, Crawford nodded grimly. The Defiant Asterisk is almost operational. We've integrated some of their technology with ours. The results are promising. How promising? Miller asked. Crawford grinned. Our shields are now twice as strong, and I've modified our sensors to work in the nebula when others can't. What about weapons? Jones asked. That's where it gets interesting, Crawford replied. Their power generation technology combined with our weapon designs creates something new, more precise, more powerful. So the Defiant Asterisk could fight? Miller pressed. Patterson nodded. Not against 1,000 ships in open space, but with the right strategy, using the nebula for cover, we might stand a chance. The Resistance wants us to train them, Rogers said. But that would take months they don't have. The Ziraxians are planning a major offensive. Miller walked to the viewport and looked out at the Resistance ships. Most were elegant, clearly designed for peaceful exploration or trade, hastily modified for combat. We don't train them, he said finally. We lead them. Show them what one ship can do with the right tactics. You're suggesting we take the Defiant Asterisk into combat? Boyd asked. Miller turned to face his crew. I'm suggesting we do what humans have always done. Adapt. Improvise. Find a way to win against impossible odds. The Ziraxians have never faced humans before, Rogers said with a determined smile. They don't know what we're capable of. Exactly, Miller said. And that's our advantage. Let's show them why picking a fight with humans was their biggest mistake. The officers looked at each other, a mix of fear and resolve in their eyes. They were far from home, outgunned and outnumbered. But something else was growing stronger by the hour: determination. The Resistance leaders gathered around a holographic display of the Cerulean Nebula. Captain Miller stood at the center, explaining his plan. The nebula will hide us from their sensors, he said, pointing to the dense clouds of blue gas. But our modified sensors can still track their ships. General Kraz shook his reptilian head. One ship against their fleet? It's suicide. Not one ship, Miller corrected. One ship they can't find, striking when they don't expect it. Zethi studied the human captain with curious eyes. Your confidence is either inspiring or foolish. I'm not sure which. Engineer Crawford stepped forward with a small device. He placed it on the table, and it projected an image of the Defiant Asterisk. We've modified our signal emitters, Crawford explained. When activated, the Defiant Asterisk will appear on Ziraxian sensors as a much larger vessel, maybe even a fleet. A deception, Dorn said, his fur bristling with excitement. They will commit more ships to the hunt. Exactly, Miller confirmed. And every ship chasing us isn't attacking your worlds. First Officer Rogers outlined the next phase of the plan. We'll hit their supply ships, targeting engines rather than destroying them completely. This forces them to commit resources to rescue operations. Lieutenant Boyd added, humans have a saying, death by 1,000 cuts. No single attack will cripple them, but together they'll drain the Ziraxians' resources and morale. The alien leaders remained skeptical, but they had few alternatives. The Ziraxian offensive was scheduled to begin in just 3 days. What do you need from us? Zethi finally asked. A diversion, Miller replied. Small hit-and-run attacks at these locations. He highlighted points on the map far from the nebula. Nothing too risky, just enough to spread their attention. Later, back on the Defiant Asterisk, the crew made final preparations. The ship looked different now. Parts of the hull gleamed with Velderan metals, and new components had been integrated into its systems. Shield modifications complete, Boyd reported from Tactical. Sensor enhancements online. Engine status? Miller asked. Crawford gave a thumbs up. Our normal drive is at 95%. The experimental FTL system is still damaged, but I've created a new jump capability using Velderan technology. It's not as powerful, but it will give us short-range jumps. How short? Miller pressed. About 30 seconds of travel at a time. Then we need 3 minutes to recharge. Miller nodded. It wasn't ideal, but it might be enough for their hit-and-run strategy. Dr. Martinez approached the captain with a concerned expression. "John, I've finished my medical preparations, but I need to say something." "Go ahead, Lisa." "The crew is exhausted. We've been working around the clock on repairs. In a combat situation." "I know," Miller interrupted gently, "but we don't have a choice. The offensive begins soon, and we need to draw their attention away from the populated worlds." Communications Officer Russell called out from his station. "Captain, I'm picking up Xeraxian transmissions. Their fleet is mobilizing earlier than expected." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. "How long?" Miller asked. 12 hours, maybe less." Miller's jaw tightened. "Then we move now. Notify the resistance. We're launching ahead of schedule." The crew moved with renewed purpose, exhaustion temporarily forgotten in the rush of adrenaline. "Weapons status?" Miller asked Patterson, who now manned a secondary tactical station. "Energy weapons at full capacity. We've added Velderan pulse torpedoes to our arsenal. Not as powerful as our missiles, but they can confuse Xeraxian targeting systems." Miller took his seat in the command chair. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him. 25 humans, alone in uncharted space, about to challenge an empire of thousands. "All stations report ready, Captain," Rogers confirmed. "Communication from Resistance Command," Russell announced. "General Kraz wishes us luck. Their diversion teams are moving into position." Miller looked around at his crew. Human faces filled with determination, fear, and resolve. This was not the mission they had signed up for when they left Earth. They had been explorers. Now they were warriors, fighting for people they had only just met. "Take us out, Helm. Set course for the nebula, full speed." The Defiant detached from the asteroid base and moved smoothly into open space, its modified engines glowing with a blue-white light. Behind them, the resistance vessels prepared for their diversionary attacks. "Send one final message to Resistance Command," Miller ordered. "Tell them, the hunt begins." The blue gases of the Cerulean Nebula swirled around the Defiant like ocean waves. Visibility was limited to just a few hundred meters, but the ship's enhanced sensors cut through the interference, showing the positions of the Xeraxian vessels outside. 30 ships at the edge of the nebula, Boyd reported from Tactical. "They're holding position, probably waiting for us to come out." Miller nodded. "They think we're trapped in here. Let's use that against them." The captain turned to Crawford. "Is the signal modifier ready?" "Yes, sir," the engineer confirmed. "When activated, we'll look like 3 heavy cruisers on their sensors." "Good. Russell, begin broadcasting the false communications we prepared. Make them think we have a small fleet in here." Russell nodded and activated a sequence of pre-recorded messages designed to sound like multiple ships coordinating. "Patterson, target their lead vessel's engines only," Miller ordered. "Boyd, prepare for immediate jump after firing." The crew tensed as the Defiant moved silently through the nebula, approaching the Xeraxian line from below. "In position," the helmsman announced. Miller took a deep breath. "Activate signal modifier. Weapons hot. Fire when ready." The Defiant's newly modified weapons lashed out from the edge of the nebula. Brilliant energy beams struck the lead Xeraxian ship's engine section with surgical precision. The massive vessel lurched, its propulsion systems failing. "Direct hit," Patterson called out. "Their engines are offline." "Jump now," Miller ordered. The Defiant vanished in a flash of light, reappearing 20 kilometers away inside the nebula. On Xeraxian sensors, it would appear as if 3 ships had attacked and then retreated deeper into the clouds. The response was immediate. Half the Xeraxian fleet surged forward into the nebula, searching for the phantom ships. "They took the bait," Rogers said with a tight smile. For the next hour, The Defiant executed a series of hit-and-run attacks. They would emerge from the nebula, strike a Xeraxian vessel, and disappear before the enemy could respond. Each time, Crawford adjusted their sensor profile to appear as different ships. Xeraxian communications indicate confusion, Russell reported. They think they're facing at least 12 different vessels. The bridge crew allowed themselves small smiles despite their exhaustion. The plan was working better than expected. "Captain," Boyd called out, "more Xeraxian ships incoming. A lot more." The tactical display showed dozens of new contacts approaching from 3 directions. "They're taking us seriously now," Miller observed. "Good. Russell, contact the Resistance. Tell them Phase 2 is ready." As the Xeraxian reinforcements arrived, Miller ordered the Defiant to change tactics. Now they began targeting communication arrays and weapons systems rather than engines. "Sir, I'm detecting increased energy readings from the Xeraxian command ship," Boyd warned. "They might be preparing some sort of area weapon." Miller considered this development. "Can we get close enough to target their command center specifically?" "It would be risky," Patterson replied. "We'd need to drop our signal modifier to reduce our profile." "Do it," Miller decided. "We need to disrupt their coordination." The Defiant slipped through the nebula, now appearing as a small scout ship on enemy sensors. They approached the massive Xeraxian command vessel, which floated at the edge of the cloud. "Their sensors are scanning, but they're not targeting us," Boyd reported. "They think we're too small to be a threat." "That's their mistake," Miller said. "Position for attack run. Target their central communication array." The Defiant burst from the nebula at full speed, all weapons firing at once. The Xeraxian command ship's communication array exploded in a shower of debris and energy. "Direct hit," Patterson shouted over the cheers of the crew. "Russell, broadcast on all frequencies," Miller ordered. "Let every ship in the sector see what just happened." Russell quickly complied, sending out a visual feed of the damaged Xeraxian flagship. "Captain, they're responding," Boyd called out. "All Xeraxian vessels are converging on our position." The tactical display filled with enemy contacts, hundreds of them, surrounding the nebula. The Defiant retreated back into the blue clouds, but the situation had changed dramatically. "They're not following standard tactics anymore," Rogers observed. "They're angry." "Good," Miller said, though his expression was grim. "Angry enemies make mistakes. But we've got their full attention now." He looked at the tactical display, where nearly 1,000 Xeraxian ships had gathered around the nebula. "And now, the real battle begins." The Defiant shuddered as another Xeraxian energy blast struck its shields. Warning lights flashed across the bridge, and the crew held onto their stations to stay upright. "Shields at 30%, Boyd reported, her voice strained but steady. "They're firing into the nebula randomly, hoping to hit us." Miller wiped sweat from his forehead. They had been evading the Xeraxian fleet for hours, but the situation was growing desperate. The enemy had surrounded the nebula completely, with nearly 1,000 ships forming a tight blockade. "We can't keep this up much longer," Rogers said quietly to Miller. "The crew is exhausted, and our power reserves are dropping." Miller nodded grimly. "Any word from the Resistance?" Russell shook his head. Their diversionary attacks were successful in drawing away some Xeraxian forces, but not enough. They're maintaining communication silence as planned. Crawford entered the bridge, his uniform stained with coolant fluid. "Captain, I've rerouted power to the shields, but we have a bigger problem. The nebula's radiation is affecting our jump drive. 2, maybe 3 more jumps before it fails completely." The bridge fell silent as the implications became clear. Without the jump drive, they would be trapped, unable to execute their hit-and-run tactics. "Options?" Miller asked his officers. Dr. Martinez, who had come to the bridge to treat minor injuries, spoke up unexpectedly. I've been studying the Zeraxians' biology from the data the Resistance provided. Their telepathic abilities are their strength, but also a potential weakness. Explain, Miller said, intrigued. Their coordination depends on a telepathic network. The command ship we damaged houses the primary nodes, but they've established secondary ones. If we could disrupt those signals, like jamming radio frequencies, Russell realized, excitement in his voice. Martinez nodded. Exactly. Their minds communicate on specific neural wavelengths. With modifications to our sensor array, we might broadcast a counter-signal. Crawford considered this. It's possible. We could adapt the signal modifier to emit a broad-spectrum pulse that might interfere with their telepathic network. How long? Miller asked. 30 minutes, maybe less. Another blast rocked the ship. We don't have 30 minutes, Boyd warned. They're getting closer with each barrage. Miller made a decision. Crawford, Martinez, make it happen. Rogers, prepare a new attack plan. We need to break through their blockade and reach their command ship again. As the officers hurried to their tasks, Miller studied the tactical display. The Zeraxian ships had formed a tightening circle around the nebula, methodically firing into the blue clouds. 20 minutes later, Crawford's voice came over the comm. Captain, the pulse emitter is ready, but there's a problem. We need to be within 500 meters of a secondary command node to affect their network. That's suicide range, Patterson muttered. Miller's face showed grim determination. Not if they don't see us coming. Boyd, remaining jump capability. 2 jumps at most, sir. That's all we need. Here's the plan. We locate the nearest secondary command node, jump directly to it, fire the pulse, then use our final jump to escape. Rogers shook her head. The second jump will be blind. The pulse will affect our sensors too. One problem at a time, Miller said. Boyd, find me a command node. After several tense minutes, Boyd located a secondary command vessel at the edge of the blockade. All hands, battle stations, Miller ordered. This is our one shot. The Defiant powered up its systems, shields glowing brightly as they prepared for the desperate maneuver. Jump drive charge, Crawford reported from engineering. Pulse emitter ready, Martins confirmed. Miller took a deep breath. Jump now. The Defiant vanished from its hiding spot and reappeared directly alongside a massive Zeraxian vessel. Before the enemy could react, Crawford activated the pulse emitter. A wave of energy erupted from the Defiant, washing over the Zeraxian ship. The effect was immediate. The enemy vessel's coordinated weapon fire became erratic, then stopped entirely. It's working, Martinez exclaimed. Their telepathic network is disrupted. All Zeraxian ships in range are showing signs of confusion, Russell reported. They've lost coordination. The victory was short-lived. The Defiant's systems flickered as the pulse drained their remaining power. Jump drive failing, Crawford warned. We need to go now. Execute final jump, Miller ordered. As the Defiant prepared to escape, a massive energy beam from a distant Zeraxian vessel sliced through their weakened shields, cutting deep into the ship's hull. Direct hit, Boyd shouted over the sound of tearing metal. Hull breach on decks 3 through 5. The Defiant drifted helplessly before the massive Zeraxian command ship. Emergency sirens wailed throughout the vessel as the crew fought to contain multiple hull breaches. Smoke filled the bridge from damaged consoles. Status report, Miller demanded, helping an injured crew member into a seat. Shields gone. Weapons at minimal power. Jump drive destroyed, Boyd reported between coughs. Main power failing. Through the view screen, they watched as the Zeraxian command ship powered up its main weapons. The enormous energy cannons began to glow with building power. They're preparing to finish us, Rogers said quietly. Miller looked around at his battered crew. They had accomplished more than anyone could have expected, disrupting the Zeraxian fleet, proving their tactics could work. But it wasn't enough. "Captain," Russell called suddenly. "I'm receiving transmissions, hundreds of them." The tactical display flickered, then showed new contacts appearing at the edge of the sensor range. Ships of various designs, Velderan, Nordian, and other resistance vessels, were streaming into the area. "It's the resistance fleet," Rogers said, hope rising in her voice. "They must have seen our broadcast." The Zeraxian fleet began to turn, dividing their attention between the Defiant and the new threat. But the command ship remained focused on the human vessel, its weapons nearly charged. "They still outgunned the resistance 3-1, Miller observed grimly. "And we're about to be destroyed." Crawford's voice came through a damaged speaker. "Captain, we still have main engines. Not enough power for weapons, but we can move." Miller's eyes narrowed as an idea formed. "Boyd, do we have any control over our shield modulators, even without shields?" "Basic functions only, sir." "Why?" "The pulse emitter. Can we modify it to overload their telepathic network completely?" Martinez, bandaging a wound on her arm, looked up sharply. "Yes, but we'd need to be inside their shields. Point-blank range." A heavy silence fell over the bridge as everyone understood what Miller was suggesting. "Get the evacuation pods ready," Miller ordered. "All non-essential personnel abandon ship immediately." "John," Rogers began to protest. "That's an order, Nancy," Miller said firmly. "I need you to lead the crew to safety. The resistance will pick you up." As most of the crew hurried to the escape pods, Miller gathered the volunteers who remained: Crawford, Martinez, Boyd, and Russell. "Here's the plan," Miller said. "We'll use remaining engine power for one final thrust. Aim straight for their command center. At the last moment, we'll activate the pulse emitter at maximum strength. The resulting pulse will fry their entire network," Martinez said. "But it will also overload our systems completely." "I know," Miller replied quietly. Boyd worked furiously at her console. "I've programmed a collision course. Manual control only. Their tractor beams are trying to hold us." Outside, the battle had begun in earnest. Resistance ships fought bravely, but the Zeraxians still held the advantage of numbers. The command ship's weapons were now fully charged, ready to destroy the Defiant. "All escape pods away," Russell confirmed. Miller took his seat in the command chair one last time. "Crawford, give me everything the engines have left." "Aye, Captain," Crawford replied, his hand steady on the controls despite knowing what came next. The Defiance engines flared with bright blue light. The ship lurched forward, breaking free of the tractor beams. Zeraxian point defense weapons fired desperately, but the human ship was too close already. "Pulse emitter ready," Martinez reported. "Maximum output." The Defiant accelerated toward the heart of the Zeraxian command ship. On its view screen, they could see alien crew members frantically trying to evade the collision. "For Earth," Miller said quietly, "and for our new friends." In the final seconds, Boyd activated the pulse emitter. A blinding wave of energy erupted from the Defiant just as it crashed into the Zeraxian vessel. The pulse rippled outward, causing Zeraxian ships throughout the fleet to suddenly falter and drift. The command ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, taking the Defiant with it. From the escape pods, Rogers and the surviving crew watched as the Zeraxian fleet fell into chaos. Without their telepathic network and command structure, they could no longer coordinate their actions. The resistance fleet, though smaller, began to systematically disable the confused enemy vessels. 3 days later, representatives from 27 alien species gathered on the Velderan homeworld. At the center of the assembly stood the surviving crew of the Defiant, honored as heroes. "One ship," Zethi addressed the gathering. "One human ship showed us what courage truly means, and changed the course of our history forever."